From the day I wrote my first Hello World program, it took me 5 years to become a data scientist at Micron. And that was 3 years to my first internship at CERN, another year to my first full-time job as a research engineer, before I finally landed a data scientist role at Micron. Now, it took me so long to become a data scientist because I didn't have a computer science degree or join any bootcamp. That's why I made tons of mistakes along the way. So I often ask myself this: if I could go back in time, knowing what I know today, what would I do differently? And that's exactly why I make this video. I'm gonna remove all the fluff and give you the fastest way to learn coding. Tip number 1, use the 20-minute rule. I get it, you don't have time to code. Maybe you are busy with your studies, or you have deadline to rush at work. Or maybe you have time but just don't, feel like coding. So here's a simple trick for you the next time when you feel like procrastinating. Tell yourself this: I'm just going to code for 20 minutes. That's it. After that, just sit down to learn and code for 20 minutes. And the next thing you know, it's already an hour of coding practice because you got so absorbed and you're already in the zone of coding. So don't rely just motivation, overcome the inertia, and you'll keep making progress no matter how small it is. Do it consistently and you are on your way to building your coding muscles. Remember, consistency is everything. Tip number 2, focus on the fundamentals. Now, there are more than 700 programming languages out there in the market, but they all follow the common programming fundamentals and concepts. While you can't learn 700 programming languages, of course, but you can always learn the fundamentals, learn the basics, and be able to apply it to any programming languages that you want to learn. Now, here are the programming fundamentals, the basics that you should focus on: variable declaration, basic syntax, data type and structures, flow control structures like loop, conditionals, functional programming, object-oriented programming, my favorite, or OP, debugging, and also learn how to use the IDEs and the coding environments. Now, for example, when I first learned Python, I focused on learning the basics of programming in general. I didn't learn almost different tools at the same time. I learned just one tool, understand the basics. With the programming basics, the fundamentals that I learned, when I started learning JavaScript the next time, the journey was so much easier for me because I had the fundamentals, and learning JavaScript is just like learning how to use another tool with different grammar, but the concepts, the fundamentals are all remain the same. In short, get the foundation right before going fancy. Tip number 3, switch between focus and relax mode. Now, when you are learning how to code, you are essentially concentrating on a topic to learn new concepts, technical concepts. So therefore, your brain operates in the focus mode, or what I call the focus thinking. It's the mode that allows your brain to absorb new knowledge, new concepts, and execute those intense tasks like coding. In short, you are in your zone, right? So for example, here, I'm writing my Python code just, printing hello world, for example. And when I click this, I try to run the code, learning some new things, learning how Python works in general. I click it. So yeah, I think I got stuck in some stupid bugs just now. But yeah, you see that your brain can't really operate in the focus mode for too long. This is what I always face when I get stuck. It needs to take a break to really digest new knowledge consciously, and this is what I call the relaxed mode, or diffuse thinking relaxed mode. It is the mode that allows your brain to really make connections subconsciously to come up with new ideas and creativity. So when I'm trying to learn new stuff, I'm essentially in the focus mode for 1 hour. Then I switch to the relaxed mode by going for a walk, just go outside, going for a walk, listening to music, or just doing nothing, sitting in my room, maybe reading some books or whatever, before I go back to the focus mode again. So this approach has helped me learn, understand, and implement new concepts within a short period of time. So I really highly recommend that to you, especially when you are just starting out to learn coding. Otherwise, you'll be very overwhelmed with all the technical stuff, the technical concepts that you are going to digest. Tip number 4, focus on project-based learning. Now, you have to code for a purpose. Always know what you're trying to achieve. So project-based learning is by far the most effective way of learning how to code, in my opinion. Why? Because you learn by doing. Now, if you are learning to code for the sake of learning to code, chances are you won't be able to get good at it. or know how to apply the knowledge to solve real problems. Now, a better way to learn coding is to start with a project. Just look around you, right? Find a social problem to solve, for example, air pollution or whatever. Learn how to code to solve the problem. Because by learning how to code with a purpose in mind, you'll be more motivated to learn programming and also to solve the problem. Even better, you can apply what you have learned in a project that would further solidify your understanding and improve your coding skills in general. So, if you're just starting out to learn programming, could be Python or any other programming language, I would strongly recommend you to start learning with a project. Don't just learn for the sake of learning, because eventually, even you have completed the course, you will still forget most of the stuff because you never implement that in a project. Tip number 5, don't overlearn. Now, this may sound a little bit counterintuitive, but it's not. Let me explain. Now, when you are getting started in programming, you are very excited and you want to learn as many new things as possible, right? Because you want to make sure that you know everything in programming. And then reality hits. You are frustrated because there are just so many things to learn. Even worse, you feel like giving up because you are just overwhelmed. You feel like coding is a very, very hard things to learn, hard skill to learn. Now, here's the truth. You don't need to learn and know everything, because you can always Google for anything. And here's the better path for you to learn coding, especially when you are starting out. Learn to code with a project. Again, project-based learning. And you just learn enough to get started. For example, the project requires you to know A, B, and C. So you just need to learn A, B, and C to get started. You may think that you need to know D, E, F, G for your project, but that's your assumption. You may or may not need those skills. So don't overlearn, just learn enough to get started. Learn in ABC, you can always learn D, E, F, G along the way, down the road. You can always Google for it if you don't understand, but just learn enough to get started. Never overlearn, otherwise you'll always be stuck in the cycle of learning without really doing. The best way of learning how to code is by doing. So if you don't do, you don't learn. So there you go, my 5 tips on how to learn coding faster. Remember, consistency is key. It makes all the difference. Let me know in the comment below if you have any other tips to learn coding faster. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.